Hi, my friends. Today, I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it. The text came at dawn, just like it always did. Hey Jess, just a heads up, there's no space this year at the lake house. Hope you're doing well. I stared at the message while my coffee went cold. It was the exact same line they'd sent the past 3 summers. Only this year, I had already seen my cousin's Instagram story showing bunk beds set up in the guest house, new tents pitched by the dock, and a full roster of invitees, including people I barely remembered. 115 guests, but not me. I pressed the mug to my lips and didn't drink. I wasn't surprised, just wary. My parents always had a way of keeping me outside the gate while pretending it was logistics. I wasn't a doctor. I wasn't in finance. I didn't join the family circle. I was Jessica, the interior designer, the one who painted murals in high school, who turned down law school, who wore boots to a brunch where everyone else wore pearls. Leah called minutes later, her voice cutting through the quiet like a flare. They did it again. Yep, not enough space, I muttered. You know they rented out the Henderson property, too, right? That's 5 extra bedrooms. I know. She said gently, it's not about space, it never was. Later that day, I got a message from my sister, Violet. I asked them why. Mom said, it's just simpler this way. I'm sorry. Simpler? As if my presence was a complication, a crack in their polished image. I sat alone that evening and pulled out the faded photo of Nana and Grandpa sitting by the lake, sun hats, lemonade, the little handmade sign behind them that read, "All are welcome." They built that place as a haven, not a hierarchy. And yet here I was, the only grandchild not welcome back. The ache twisted in my chest, not loud, but constant, the kind that sneaks into your bones and makes you question your worth. But then something shifted, not anger, something colder, clearer, a line being drawn. I whispered aloud, if there's no space for me, maybe I'll make my own. And for the first time in years, the thought didn't feel pitiful, it felt powerful, like a beginning. I sat across from Ella in her sunlit loft, the smell of citrus oil and old sketchbooks curling around us. She didn't speak right away, she just waited, like she always did, until the silence became unbearable. They did it again, I said. Finally, Ella set down her mug. Your parents? I nodded. Told me there's no room again, but there's room for people I haven't seen since I was 13. Ella exhaled slowly. And how do you want to respond this time? I don't want to cry anymore, I'm done with that. I looked up. I want to create something better. That's when the idea flickered, just a flicker, but it grew fast. What if I reclaimed the space they kept denying me, not at their table, but at my own? What if I built something that honored what Nana and Grandpa stood for, not perfection, not elitism, but warmth, creativity, inclusion? By the time I left Ella's, my hands were trembling with adrenaline. I called Harper before I could talk myself out of it. Harper, hear me out, I said as soon as she answered. I want to host a retreat at Lake George the same weekend, not to compete, just to exist. There was a pause. Then, I'm in. Within 2 days, we had a name, the Creative Minds Retreat. A 3-day experience for designers, artists, visionaries. We booked a secluded estate just across the water from my family's place. Modern cabins, private docks, gourmet kitchen. It was stunning, quiet hours. I started reaching out to people who mattered, clients who saw me, friends who made room. I even called Violet and my younger brother Jake. Violet whispered, Jess, are you sure? I'm not doing this out of spite, I told her. I'm doing it because I deserve to belong somewhere, and so do you. There was a pause, then a quiet, send me the invite. That night, I sat alone in my studio, scrolling through old photos. I stopped on one of Grandpa teaching me how to skip stones. I could still hear him saying, every ripple starts with a small throw. I stared out my window. This was my ripple, my throw. The night before both retreats began, the air at Lake George was thick with crickets and tension. I stood barefoot on the wraparound deck of my rented estate, watching the last crates of supplies being unloaded. Lanterns flickered down the stone path, the scent of rosemary, lemon zest, and lavender wafted from the kitchen. Thanks to my team of chefs, who were, until 48 hours ago, booked for my parents' retreat. Harper walked up beside me with a clipboard, grinning. Everything's in place, staff settled, guests start arriving at 10 o'clock. How do you feel? I hesitated like I just pulled the pin on a silent grenade. The plan hadn't been impulsive, it was strategic. I'd offered every staff member from my parents' event double the rate, private transportation, and full creative freedom. They accepted within hours. This wasn't revenge, it was justice. Back at my parents' compound across the lake, panic had reportedly set in. No chefs, no servers, no bar team, no music, texts, nothing, just silence, stress, and panic. I heard later that my mother tried to cook lasagna for 40. My father nearly pulled a hamstring trying to assemble folding chairs. No one had ever told them what it felt like to be unsupported. Now they were living it. Violet texted. Violet, the retreat is falling apart. No food, no servers. Mom is losing it. Me? That sounds familiar. That evening, I posted a quiet photo to Instagram, me on a bench with a cup of tea, the lake behind me, a caption that simply read, "Ready for what's next." By morning, it had begun. My phone buzzed violently around 7:43 a.m. First, a call from my father, then two from my mother. I ignored them both. Then came the message. Mother, how dare you steal our staff? Are you out of your mind? We've spent months on this event. Fix this. Voicemail after voicemail, texts piling up like thunderclouds. I finally answered on the fifth call. My mother's voice pierced through the receiver. Jessica Hawkins, what have you done? The entire staff gone. The chefs, the servers, the retreat is in chaos. My father's voice boomed in the background. You deliberately sabotaged us. You lured them all away from us at the last minute. You stole them. How dare you? I stared out over the flickering torches of my retreat where laughter echoed and creative minds met freely. I took a long, calm breath and said, "Don't worry, now you know what it feels like to be left out of something you were meant to be a part of. I didn't ruin your retreat. I just made sure someone finally prioritized me." There was silence. Then I added, with the steadiness of a woman who had nothing left to prove, "I paid them double because I value them just like I've learned to value myself. Maybe if you'd done the same for any of us who didn't fit your mold, you wouldn't be scrambling tonight." I ended the call before they could respond. Just that afternoon, while I was leading a creative journaling workshop under the white canopy, I saw them, my mother, father, and older brother, Grant, striding across the lawn like they owned the earth beneath it. "Jessica," my mother snapped, arms stiff at her sides, "you've humiliated this family." Guests turned, conversations paused. I rose calmly. "Can we speak away from my guests?" We stepped under the portico. My father's eyes blazed. We had 80 guests, no chefs, no staff, people left. "Maybe now," I said, "you understand what it feels like to be disregarded. 4 years, I watched you toast others, applaud others, while pretending I didn't exist." Grant scoffed. "You're exaggerating." "Am I?" I met his eyes. "You remember last year? Mom said no room, but rented 2 houses for your golf buddies." My mother flushed. "We never meant to hurt you, but you did, every single year." She glanced around as if seeing the retreat for the first time, the calm joy, the inclusion, the warmth. "You planned this," my father said, "to shame us." "No, I planned it to heal." He shook his head. "You'll regret this." I didn't flinch, not anymore. "I wish you all the very best," I said at last, "truly, but I won't keep knocking on a door that never opened." They stood there a moment longer, stiff and stunned, then, without another word, they turned and walked back across the grass. I watched until they disappeared behind the tree-line. I felt no guilt, no vindication, just release. Inside the tent, someone laughed, a song began to play. The final night of the retreat shimmered with stars. Guests danced barefoot on the lawn, plates of wild mushroom risotto and lemon tart in hand. I sat quietly on the swing beneath the old maple tree, my favorite place as a child before I'd been pushed to the periphery. Great Aunt Shauna settled beside me, her shawl trailing in the breeze. "Your grandfather would be proud, you know," she said. "He always said you had the boldest heart." I blinked back unexpected tears. I didn't think anyone saw me back then. "Oh, we saw you," she said, smiling gently, "but some were too small to understand a soul that big." I nodded slowly. "I didn't sabotage them to hurt them, I just needed to stop hurting myself." "And you did," she said, "you created something real here, Jessica, something they couldn't." Just then, Violet approached with a glass of wine. "Jess," I wanted to say. She hesitated. "I'm staying at your place next summer if you'll have me." I smiled. "Always." From the speakers, a piano tune drifted across the lawn. Laughter sparked like fireflies in the dusk. My retreat, our retreat, felt like the family I had always longed for, one built not from bloodlines, but from love, respect, and presence. I looked out at the guests, artists, writers, kindred spirits, each of them chosen, and each of them choosing to be here. For the first time, I wasn't fighting to belong. I belonged to myself. My story becomes a message for others. When excluded, create your own powerful space, and others will want to be part of it. Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.